Sir, we are live.
So very good evening, everyone. Greetings from Sonipat, from OP Jindal Global University and Jindal Global Law School. Welcome to the 9th JGLS Young Scholars Colloquium. We have Trisha Sarma, our 2010-15 batch graduate, who is joining us from New York. So a very good morning to you, Trisha. We have Bambi Bhalla, who is our 12-17 batch BLLB graduate, joining us from Delhi.
From Hyderabad.
Hyderabad.
Yes.
I understand it's so gone back home. And Pavitra has joined us from Sydney in Australia. Aditi Motani, our student panelist from Betia, West Champaran. And Rajat has joined us from Delhi. Or Allahabad, Rajat?
I'm currently at my hometown, sir. It's a place called Shikohabad.
Shikohabad, amazing.
Yes, sir.
So that's the beauty of being a part of UP Jindal Global University and Jindal Global Law School, where we have in one panel people joining from 3 different continents and within India from different states and even remote districts and small towns. It's all part of Jindal Global Law School Young Scholars Colloquium, where we bring our alumni and students to interact and share their professional and academic journeys, as well as to, in a way, inspire the younger people who are studying law to have a look at what career pathways the graduates in law who study law in a rigorous and I will say passionate way pursue, and how their careers and lives are shaped in due course. This is also an effort to showcase our talent, our graduates who have, we are now 12-year-old. We are in the 13th year of our law school and university. We started very small in 2009, but today in 2021, we are indeed India's most premier law school campus, and with over 450 full-time faculty members. We are the largest law faculty in the country, maybe one of the largest in the entire world. And also our student body, which started with 112 students in 2009, it has become more than 4,500 full-time law students. So the law school and the university has come a long way. It's a celebration of that spirit as well. In today's colloquium, as we can say, our alumni as well as our students come from different programs. Someone has pursued a BA LLB program. Someone has pursued an LLB 3-year program like Rajat and LLM program at Jindal. Someone has done a BBA LLB honors program like Pavitra. And Aditi, who is a student of BBA LLB honors program, I'm delighted to inform you that our law school, which started with only 2 academic programs called BA LLB honors and LLB 3-year program in the year 2009, has today, and particularly in the upcoming academic year 2022, there are 4 3-year undergraduate degree programs. We are the only law school offering a BA honors degree after class 12 in human rights, a BA honors degree in gender studies, a BA honors degree in criminology and criminal justice, and a BA honors degree in legal studies, which is more like what they say BA law in the United States and UK and many parts of the world. Apart from that, the 5-year integrated law degree programs, be it BA LLB honors, BBA LLB honors, and BCom LLB honors, we have approval for all 3 programs now. Then we have a 3-year LLB programs, and certainly India's largest LLM program with 8 specializations, ranging from say, corporate and financial law and intellectual property, to tax, competition, international trade and investment law, to even a general legal studies, where you can do a general LM program specializing in any area whatsoever. So in a way, Jindal Global Law School today is the most comprehensive law school in the country, offering the largest number of full-time residential campus law degree programs from undergraduate to postgraduate to research degrees. And certainly, these programs are leading to diverse careers. So that is the theme of today's colloquium. And with these words, I would like to invite Trisha as our first panelist speaker, who joins us from New York City. She has studied her BA LLB honors degree in 2010-15 batch at Jindal Global Law School. She went on to pursue an LLM at the Columbia Law School in Columbia University, and Trisha is also a graduate of Dhirubhai Ambani International School, where she studied up to class 12th before coming to Jindal Global Law School. She qualified New York bar exam, and I would like to invite you, Trisha, to share your journey as well as the work you are doing. And I just came to know she is offering an academic course, a one credit course, which we offer 15 hours of teaching as a claimed faculty member for our senior students of the law school. So as an honorary adjunct faculty member also, I welcome you, Trisha, back to Jindal Global Law School. I have very fond memories of seeing you on campus till 2015, or I think even I met you after that once, but I could remember you so well that even after seeing you after say around 6 years, it looks like we met a few days back. So over to you, Trisha.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Professor. Definitely had a great time at Jindal, and even interacting with you. I took your labor law courses. I remember that as well. So I just decided to get into a brief overview of what I've done so far as my experience at Jindal as well as post Jindal. So like Professor said, I joined in 2010. It was the second batch, so Jindal was very, very different then than it is now. But it was a leap of faith that I do not regret for a single day. I think definitely one of the best decisions that I made was coming to Jindal. I think the amount that we learned is unparalleled today in other Indian universities, especially. So I think very early on, I knew that I wanted to do corporate law. I definitely did explore other potential options. I did one litigation at the Bombay High Court, one litigation internship at the Bombay High Court. But otherwise, I was fairly certain that I wanted to do corporate law, and I focused most of my courses and internships on corporate law. So the way I approached going about my internships as well as securing the job that I ultimately did get was, like I said, I focused only on specific law firms. I understand that it's really difficult to get internships at law firms, so everyone's limited in that. But if you can, instead of spreading yourself thin and doing 7 different internships at 7 different law firms, my advice to anybody who is sure that they want to work in corporate law would be to work at a couple of law firms, understand the culture, and then pick the one law firm that you really enjoyed working at and continue to work at there. So in my experience, I did actually only internships at 2 different law firms, not more than that, but I did multiple internships at those. In total, I did about 6 internships at those 2 law firms. So I did 2 at one of the law firms. And I think after my second one, I was very clear that while it was a very prestigious law firm, and I won't take the name, the culture just wasn't for me. It was something that I just didn't think I would be a good fit at that law firm. And the other one, I really enjoyed the culture, the work that I was getting, the exposure that I was getting. And that firm was AZB, which I ultimately went on to work at. So I think definitely one thing to keep in mind, especially when looking at corporate law firms, is not just the name, because while that's really important, it's also how you see your future there. Whether you can see yourself working there for a long period of time and maintaining a relationship with the firm, with the people at the firm. So for me, I don't currently work at AZB, but I do have a really good relationship with the people that I did work with. And I know tomorrow, if I did want to go back to the firm, those doors would be open for me, just because I think I was able to maintain a really good relationship with them. So, like I said, after my internships there, I did go on to get an PPO in my fourth or fifth, I can't recall, fourth or fifth year. I think it was either second semester of my fourth year or first semester of my fifth year. And I did work there for 3 years before my LLM. And while I was at AZB, I did a variety of work that included both finance work as well as M&A work. And just because of the way AZB is, and I think most law firms today as well, will allow you to rotate between different groups and get a little bit of exposure across the board to really understand what it is that you want. Because I think going back to my time at Jindal, I did a lot of courses on corporate law. I did not just the general courses that are offered that are mandatory courses, but also my electives were completely corporate law related. For example, I did advanced corporate law, I did the mergers and acquisitions course, I did project finance. So I did a variety of these courses that were offered to us as electives. And I think through those courses, I realized what I'm interested in and what I'm not interested in, which I just solidified along the way with my work experience at AZB. So I think definitely as students of Jindal, everyone should take advantage of the fact that we have so many courses that are offered to us that are also very practical and give you an insight into what you will be doing as a lawyer, especially as a junior lawyer, including the course that I teach. So, in case anyone wants to take that next semester, if I offer it, I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity there for you to learn and grow. And like I said, at AZB, I did a mix of work. It's definitely something that the advantage that I had at a firm like AZB, which I think a lot of other firms in India as well offer, is that they're relatively small. So you do get a lot of exposure, from day one. You don't have to wait to be a senior associate to start drafting agreements, be involved in negotiations. And I think that's something that's definitely important and something people should look into when looking at corporate law jobs, in my experience. Now I'll move on a little bit about my LLM, because I was very clear that I always wanted to do an LLM, especially being at Jindal. I know that most of our professors have LLMs, if not all our professors have LLMs. And we have so much exposure to not just Jindal, but also other universities that Jindal has MOUs with, or partnerships and agreements with. And we have a lot of faculty who come from those universities as well. So I think very early on, I was exposed to the idea of an LLM, or the opportunity to pursue some sort of master's degree abroad. And I knew I wanted to do it, but I was also very clear that for the LLM that I wanted to do and the work experience that I, had and wanted to gain, it was important for me personally to do an LLM only after X number of years, not right out of law school. But that said, I think LLMs are also very specific to the area that you're looking to practice in. And for some people, it might just make sense to do an LLM straight out of school. But for me personally, I think I really benefited from working for 3 years before applying for my LLM, because that gave me the advantage to really use what I knew in a practical scenario in my LLM and just grow from there. And also my LLM courses that I took, again, were very corporate law and M&A oriented, because that's something that was an area of interest for me. And I really was able to connect with the professors that I had at Columbia and learn and be more enriched with that experience as well. So I want to take a minute to talk about, my approach to the law schools that I applied to, and what I think some of the law schools look for. Obviously, it's not a completely clear process. Admissions, especially to LLM universities in the US, which is what I'll speak about, because my LLM was in the US and I only apply to schools in the US. So this is very specific to US LLMs and not other countries. Um, I think the admissions process is very vague, but there is certain things that we know for a fact they look for. I was very clear that if I do an LLM, I want to do it at a university that is definitely one of the top 5 schools, because I think that if you're not doing an LLM at a top 5 to 10 school in the country that you choose to do it in, you're not going to get the same experience that I think you should be getting from an LLM, because we need to remember that an LLM is not just a time investment, but a significant monetary investment as well. And I think people need to very seriously consider where they do their LLMs and why they're choosing to do an LLM. I think doing an LLM for the sake of doing it, just because you think it's going to look cool on your CV, is something that you should think very hard about, because like I said, it is a very solid investment on your part. And also, I think very specifically to the US, if the goal for you is to get a job after the LLM, I think it is very difficult to get a job with just an LLM degree. And most people do not get a job in the US with just an LLM degree. It's not the same as it is in a lot of countries, such as the UK. So in that case, if you're specifically looking for a job, a JD might also be an option that you might want to consider, because it's more guaranteed that you'll get a job post a JD as opposed to after an LLM. And just to get a little bit into the top schools and my experience of applying, what I think they look for, the school that I ultimately went to was Columbia. And I think Columbia is one of the few schools that does definitely have a focus on work experience. So one of the admissions requirements for them is that you have 2 years work experience, even though there's a few people who do get in who don't necessarily have the 2 years. I think they make up for it in other ways with, extracurriculars that they've done or other experiences that they've had. So I think it's very important to look at the school that you're applying to and what it is that they want out of a student. And also, again, the same with law firm. I think schools going to the right school for you is very important. For example, I didn't apply to Yale, even though it's one of the most prestigious law schools and prestigious LLM programs, just because it's a highly academic program. And I was clear that at that time that I was not going to get into academia full time, and it would make more sense for me to go to an LLM that had a focus on corporate law. And Columbia was one of the few schools with a definite focus on corporate law. And Harvard, again, is a school that focuses a lot on research and publications. And unfortunately, however much everyone at Jindal tried to get me to publish, that's not something that I was very keen on. And I'm still not very keen on a lot of research and publication. So I didn't think Harvard would be a good fit for me either. And with Stanford, which is another top school, I think it's one of the few really prestigious LLMs that offer specialized courses in the US. So your LLM is specific to, for example, you have a competition law LLM, or they have an IP related LLM. And the corporate one is a corporate governance LLM. It's not just a corporate law LLM. So I think these are all things that anybody who's looking to do an LLM needs to consider. And I think it's a given that one of the most important things while doing an LLM is grades. That's the first thing that they look at. I definitely think, I don't know how the grading works today at Jindal and, how difficult it is to maintain an O average. But I know that most people who did get into Columbia with me from Jindal had an O average. But that said, one of my really close friends, who I will not name, did not have the O average. And he did ultimately also get into Columbia just because of his work experience that he ultimately had and a lot of his other extracurricular activities. So it's not like there are no exceptions to the rule and you can only get in if you have an O average. It's just that it's definitely a lot easier if your grades are top of the class, because when you apply, there's a part of the process is a grade conversion where they convert your grades to what it would be, as per the US grading system. And they look at that, and it's very important to them because at the end of the day, the LLM is a very academic degree as well. So it's very important for them to know that. So I think the only other thing that I would add is that I have two more things to add. It's if you're really looking to do a job outside of India and the LLM is your route to that job, like I said, I don't think a US LLM guarantees that. But maybe one way that you could help yourself is, I know that Jindal has a tie-up with a lot of Magic Circle law firms where you can apply for a vacation scheme, which could maybe turn into a training contract. So if that's something you really want to pursue, definitely make use of the opportunities that you do have in college. Do those vacation schemes, get exposure to those law firms that you ultimately do want to work with. And the last thing is, if you do an LLM in the US, please give the bar exam. Even if you don't want to practice in the US, I know a lot of people who left without giving the bar exam, but it's something that is just an additional 2 months after you've already spent a year in the country. And definitely is something that that's something that people can relate to, right? Wherever you did your LLM from, if you say you passed the bar exam, that's immediately a qualification that around the world people understand that you passed the bar exam. So they can put that into context, even if they can't necessarily put in how prestigious or not your LLM is. So I think, and it's a great experience. It's something that's definitely, you learn a lot from studying for the bar. So yeah, I think that's my little input on my career and my advice to everyone.
So that's amazing, Trisha. I'm so very proud of you.
Thank
And I joined Jindal in 2011, so I have seen you on campus for 4 years. We never imagined the situation which we are facing now, when since March 20, we are closed for students and faculty members. And it's only online mode of education being imparted. This was beyond our dreams even, that something like this could happen in a fully residential university like us. But certainly I'm hopeful we have almost won this situation, and we are going to be fully residential and back in our spirit from the coming semester. Now I have Bambi Bhalla with me, and she comes to Jindal in our 2012-17 batch from two very special schools in Hyderabad, Nasser School and DPS Hyderabad, where she did her schooling, and then joined us in the 5-year BLB honors program. She is a corporate lawyer working presently as a counsel in Cornelia Chambers, but prior to that, she has worked in, I could see, two good law firms of the country, Intel Advocare and Obhan Associates. And I could see you have interned at Sai Krishna, you at few more IP firms, you have written on Mondac and Live Law, and did a lot of things. I think you have been a recipient of Savitri Jindal Merit Scholarship. And I'm so delighted to have you in this panel. I would like to hear from you your journey, as well as the work you are doing now as a corporate lawyer, and also the work you did as an IP lawyer or in the field of employment law and other areas in past. So over to you, Bambi Bhalla.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Professor. I'm honestly really happy to be here and to be able to talk about my journey so far, especially if this can be of any help to even one law student or young professional out there. So I joined the BALB program in at Jindal in 2012. There was never any particular eureka moment of sorts that I experienced when it came to my decision to study law. But for some reason, from 10th grade onwards, I was always very fascinated about obtaining a legal education because I always felt it would be a great foundation for anything I wanted to do in life later on. It also felt very empowering as a 16-year-old girl to take that call to study law. I honestly had no clue as to what I would do with my legal education, but I was sure that I wanted a good one, which is why picking Jindal as my law school became a very easy decision because I was certain that out of all the colleges in India, Jindal would be able to provide me the best. At the time, we didn't yet have a batch that had graduated yet, and as Trisha said, it was a leap of faith, right? Which a lot of us took at the time. So in a sense, our senior batches and our batch as well, we had a sense of responsibility that we carried in ensuring that Jindal maintains a good reputation. During my time in Jindal, I had a great time attending classes, and I truly believe it's where I found my confidence and potential. And I think I can speak on behalf of my class and batch when I say that we all immediately felt a sense of belonging, to one another and to Jindal when we first arrived, and that carried on with us throughout. It only got stronger when we graduated and stepped into the real world as legal professionals and as individuals. And our courses were structured so well, and in every classroom we were asked to kind of wipe our slates blank and kind of start afresh with critical thinking and analysis. And our internals and externals were also structured in a manner where we had to really think about the application of law and policies in everyday life. So not only did we have hardcore law subjects to study, but we had a variety of optional courses to choose from. I remember taking up a variety of courses in criminal psychology, law of the sea, child sexual abuse, gaining exposure, in a variety of fields within the realm of law, and that to being taught by some of the most brilliant professors from around the world. Um, I feel that really gave us an edge as law students in Jindal in comparison to other law students from other colleges in India. Mm, so, I mean, going back to Jindal days, like every other law student out there, every semester and every year, there were a few courses that really stood out for me and that really appealed to me. I remember in the first semester, we only started out with one law subject. This was tort, and the others were all BA courses. And that was our very first introduction to a law subject, and I really enjoyed myself. I think that's when I was sure that law school was for me and that Jindal, in fact, was the right pick for me. Eventually, you know, by the fourth year, you tend to take yourself more seriously because you realize you're approaching the last leg of your legal education, and you tend to do more internships in an area of law where you want to create a career for yourself. So Jindal had extremely great intellectual property law courses. And after being introduced to IP in my fourth year, I was sure that I wanted to make a career for myself in IP law. So, like you mentioned, Professor, this led to me taking up all the available IP courses and doing all the IP internships that I could find possibly. every semester, and there was also an IP committee at Jindal, which I was a part of. I also started writing and publishing articles relating specifically to IP law with several IP magazines. In fact, a trademark registry company had managed to find my one of my IP law articles on LinkedIn, and they approached me for a paid opportunity where I would write IP law focused articles for their platform. And this I did throughout my fourth and fifth year at Jindal. Besides this, like I mentioned, I only interned at the top IP firms like Krishna, Anand, and Anand. Basically, I was trying to gain all the possible IP experience that I could possibly gather. Although at that time, a lot of IT firms were not doing campus recruitments, I remember reaching out to CDPD, and they were extremely helpful in lending support and information and just generally guiding me on how I was approaching IP firms and interviews. I also started using LinkedIn to build my own identity and brand as a law student and as a future lawyer. And it's also where I actually applied for my first job in the fifth year. There was an opening with IP boutique firm Intel Advocare. I remember in my fifth year, and there were hundreds of applicants, and they were looking for a more experienced person. But I still just, I went ahead, I applied, and I actually got called for the interview, and I was also offered a pre-placement offer in the fifth semester, in the fifth year, in the first semester. So, so that's when my journey as an IP lawyer basically started. While at Intel, I really enjoyed working in the IP prosecution department, where I was involved in advising, strategizing, and handling trademark prosecution and intellectual portfolios of Indian and international clients across a variety of industries, such as pharma, telecommunication, liquor, electronics. So my work involved handling various client queries and providing brand adoption and strategy opinions to clients. And some of these were really big clients such as Nestle and Pernod Ricard. So essentially, my job at Intel in the prosecution department involved a lot of research and advisory work specific to trademark and copyright related issues. So I was heavily involved in dealing with the trademark registry and drafting and filing applications and replies to examination reports, assignment deeds, all of that. I also attended the hearings at the trademark registry. So after around a year and a half at Intel, I decided to take a short break to figure out if I wanted to go and study or perhaps make a switch. So since mooting and litigation that was never my area of expertise, I eventually decided to take the plunge into corporate law. And this was a decision made purely because, I wanted to learn as much as I could and kind of gain valuable experience to be able to someday independently handle all sorts of corporate commercial transactions and not just be stuck to IP basically. So this is when I took the decision to join as an associate at Ubhan and Associates. And my stint at Ubhan was it's very valuable because throughout my law school, I hadn't actually done any corporate internships, unlike a lot of my peers. And taking this plunge, I knew somewhere that I have to start from scratch since all this while I had been building my identity as that of an IP lawyer purely. So Ubhan basically, what it did was it exposed me to basically the vast world of corporate law. And that's where I learned how to draft and review all sorts of contracts and all sorts of agreements. Um, Yeah, so I mean, basically, Ubhan was it was great because I learned how to draft and review and negotiate contracts. I learned how to conduct due diligence, and also basically be involved in various transactions and also reviewing and drafting key documents and share purchase, share subscription agreements. Um, so after Ubhan, after gaining about a year and a half of experience at Ubhan, I shifted to Cornelia, which is it's a chamber based out of Gurgaon, and Pritika Kumar is the founder of Cornelia. Before founding Cornelia, she had worked at J Sagar Associates for a couple of years. I had met Pritika right when I was making the decision to venture into corporate law, and I was very fond of her and the work that she was doing in building the practice at Cornelia. So at Cornelia, we're a lawyers collective and we're a small team of about 10 to 11 lawyers with expertise in different fields. And Pritika has also founded a lot of other initiatives, one such being the People India platform, which is a change making tech based platform designed to recreate India through mass media awareness, public interest litigation, civil and criminal cases, engaging in online discussions with government authorities and key stakeholders. So, I mean, it's a little different from your typical law firm. And this was a major decision in me kind of switching to Cornelia. Mm, so I joined Cornelia as a resident counsel, which is equivalent to a senior associate. And at Cornelia presently, I take care of several corporate accounts here. One of the interesting accounts that I handle presently is that of the business process management subsidiary of Infosys, where I'm presently acting as an in-house legal counsel. So this role, it's very different from your typical corporate lawyer role at a law firm because this role has given me a lot of insight into how business and law go hand, how they go hand in hand. And it has given me a holistic approach in handling legal matters for bigger organizations and MNCs and really understanding the business, like the business approach and perspective. So, sorry. So at Cornelia, I draft and review and I handle several corporate commercial accounts and agreements and transactions. And ultimately, my goal is not to just become the best corporate lawyer that I can be, but also to be associated with and support impact driven corporations. And this was actually a big factor in me switching and joining Cornelia Chambers. So, apart from this, my interest for research and writing has continued through law school and even afterwards. And like you mentioned, I continue to write and publish articles for several websites. I think apart from the core work that you do, it's important to constantly stay updated on the legal and regulatory changes. And for me, research and publishing is my way of ensuring that I stay updated and I share this information with those in the industry. And also to finally add, now that I'm reaching the end of my journey, I have also recently joined an initiative which helps in mentoring law students and guiding them on various aspects like CV building, about the industry with internships, and just generally lending a ear to better understand their concerns and shed some light on how the industry works and how they can make a place for themselves in the industry. So yeah, that's been my journey. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Bambi. You actually gave a very good perspective of what young lawyers who are interested in working in, say, IP, corporate, or law firms, or even companies and corporations have to go through in the initial years of their careers, and how in a way you excel and establish yourself to some extent as a dependable lawyer and legal professional. So I'm extremely proud of you and the work you have done. Now it's time to invite Pavitra, who had joined us from Sydney in Australia. And I thought she's a dual qualified lawyer because she has a BBA LLB honors degree from Jindal. She is our 13-18 batch BBA LLB honors graduate. And I thought she must have got entry in the Indian bar by becoming a member of the Bar Council, either in Delhi or Mumbai or Hyderabad, what usually law graduates do. But she rather chose to go for an LLM at UNSW, which is one of the top ranked law school in the world. Jindal is ranked 76, and UNSW is ranked 13th in the latest law subject ranking. So she chose to go to UNSW for an LLM, and even now she's pursuing an MBA degree and degree in project management also, along with her work in an Australian law firm in Sydney. But she's a dual qualified lawyer, not being an Indian lawyer, but she has qualified both New Zealand bar as well as Australian bar, and eligible to practice law in both the jurisdictions. She came from Kendriya Vidyalaya, KV in Ernakulam. And I very fondly remember, how excited she was when she came after his school directly to the law school and joined us on campus. I have fond memories. Pavitra was also a recipient of Savitri Jindal Merit Scholarship. And immediately after her law degree, she moved to Australia. And since then, she has made that country her home. So over to you, Pavitra. I'm so delighted to have you on this panel and to be a part of this colloquium.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised when you approached me, because at the time I was thinking of actually speaking to you about another initiative that I had in mind at the time. But then pleasantly you surprised me by approaching me for this opportunity. But having said that, it has been a journey. I mean, since the time that I've graduated from Jindal, it has been a journey. There were like a bunch of ups and downs, but finally now I'm here. But having said that, Jindal prepared me really very well for the real world. Like, I won't take that away from Jindal at all. If it wouldn't have been for the faculty, if it wouldn't have been for the opportunities that I was introduced to during my time at Jindal, I honestly wouldn't be where I am today. Because there are a whole bunch of students who I had interacted with during my time at UNSW, and all of them struggled big time with adjusting to the curriculum and the rigorous, their way of marking and everything else. There were a bunch of students who struggled with understanding some very complex concepts, which I can understand. It's possible when you don't happen to come from a university that has global faculty, that has the kind of opportunities that it provides you with. I can understand that it's a struggle to adjust with a world with the kind of education that is given in a world ranking university. So having said that, all credit goes to Jindal for sure. When I came to Jindal, I always had this at the back of my mind since my 8th standard, that I actually wanted to become a lawyer. And that was because since childhood, I believe I've been the kind of person who's always been either the mediator trying to solve issues between two people, or I've been the kind of person who tries to defend someone or the other. So naturally, I believe this trait just came to me, that I'm someone who likes to stand up for people's rights. So if I'm someone who likes to solve issues and I'm someone who likes to stand up for people's rights, what could be better for me? The best thing that I could do is become a lawyer. So eventually, with that thought in my mind, I thought, okay, let me look at law schools that I could probably join. I gave CLAT, I gave NLU Delhi. I got through CLAT, I got into Jodhpur, NLU Jodhpur. But then back then in my coaching class, the place where I used to go at in Ernakulam, they were selling, not selling, but they were promoting this idea that, you know, Jindal is this new school and that their facilities are world class, their faculty is world class, you could experience a different life there. So I thought, all right, then might as well convince my parents and then start this journey. So then that's how I arrived at Jindal. I convinced my parents that yes, it's going to be an expensive one, but then it's going to be a good one. Like it's going to be something that's going to, you know, contribute to my future big time. So my parents agreed. They hopped on board, and then that's how I landed in Jindal. Now, when I landed in Jindal, I had finished my 12th grade with a specialization in commerce. So then the natural progression to that was that I get into a BBA LLB. So I got myself into the BBA LLB. Now I still remember the first 2 years of my law school. They were very they were filled with a lot of excitement. They were filled with this enthusiasm and excitement about the fact that I wanted to explore a lot of things. So there was some students who were my batchmates who had made up their mind in the very first year that they wanted to do corporate law, or they wanted to do litigation, or they wanted to do something else. But in my case, at least, the first 2 years, it was all about exploring different avenues and trying to see as to where I see myself eventually in the future. Having said that, when I came to my third year, I became a little bit more focused about what I actually wanted to do, having tried like different types of things. In my third year, sometime I thought that, all right, maybe corporate law is something that is cut out for me. So this is something that I'd like to pursue. I interned at JSA twice, Jyoti Sagar Associates. I interned at their Bangalore office twice. By the time I think I was in my fourth year, first semester, fourth year, second semester, I interned with them again, and I immediately received a PPO from them. So the idea at that point in time was to go and join their office and work there and be in India. And an idea like somewhere far in the future, I thought that, oh, all right, might as well do an LLM as well. But having said that, by the time I moved into my fourth year, I was introduced to dispute resolution. So when I was introduced to dispute resolution, I thought, all right, corporate law, yes, for sure. It'll help me get my name on the wall and so many other things. My career would shoot through. But then when I was introduced to dispute resolution, I thought actually maybe this is cut out for me better, and that I'd be able to make my name in this field in dispute resolution. And it was an upcoming field at that time in India. So then I took a whole bunch of electives at Jindal. In fact, I remember I took 6 or 7 electives that were specific to arbitration, mediation, and I think negotiation. Yeah. So based on that experience, I then interned at Arista Chambers. I interned at Shardula Merchant Mangaldas with their dispute resolution team. And that experience really had, in a way, sort of it opened my eyes that, okay, this is where I want to see myself. This is what I want to practice. Now with that, finally, when I landed in my fifth year, I decided, all right, yes, I do have a PPO, but I felt at that point in time that um, if I just put myself into the work life, then I thought I may not have the academic rigor or the zeal to keep up with my LLM. I personally thought that I'll lose that zeal. So I thought, all right, let me just let go of this PPO right now and might as well go on to do my LLM. Now, from here starts my LLM journey. I finished with my BBA LLB, and then, sorry, I was in my fifth year. And in my fifth year, I started looking for law schools. Now, I always had this at the back of my mind that I wanted to become a dual qualified lawyer. I wanted to qualify in another jurisdiction and practice there, but I just didn't have it in my head as to which jurisdiction I'd like to go to. Now, there were a lot of my friends who were planning on going to the US. There were few others who wanted to go to the UK. There was someone who wanted to go to Dubai, and I was still trying to figure out, okay, what else could I do? Do I need to go to Singapore? Do I need to go to London? Where do I go? So at that time, strangely enough, this opportunity was presented to me by Professor Sean Starr, who also happened to be my lecturer at that time, and he said that, Pavitra, you want to qualify abroad, and you plan on practicing abroad for some time. Why not try Australia? Now, Australia was something that no one had spoken about it by then. Like, everybody was focused on going to the UK, US, and even Canada. So I was like, all right, nobody is doing it. Like, nobody is going to Australia, and that this is going to be a first time opportunity. Might as well try as to where it takes me. So I decided to take the more non-conventional path, and I did my research. I created a list of like the top 10 schools in the world, and out of that, the one that sort of attracted me the most was UNSW. One, because the opportunity was presented to me by Professor Sean Starr, and the second reason was that by then Jindal had entered into a tie-up with most of the legal boards here in Australia with different states, and they were planning on sending students for some sort of internships. And if they happen to finish a certain number of subjects with certain types of grades, that could eventually help them transition and eventually clear the Australian bar in whichever state they happen to plan, like eventually they plan on settling in. So, and luckily enough, at that time, Jindal also entered into an internship program with this law firm called Mitri Lawyers, which is like one of the biggest law firms in Australia. So I thought, all right, since all the dots are connecting, I was like, okay, let's do this. I approached Mitri Lawyers. I gave an interview for them. I said that, like this, I'm coming in for an LLM. And if you're able to give me an internship, that would give me a head start into Australian legal industry, and I'll just understand how the industry functions. So they said, all right, let us, like, they interviewed me formally. And then once I got through their personal interview rounds and their some of their emotional quotient rounds and things like that, I got through all of those rounds, and then my internship was confirmed. So I had my LLM in UNSW. I had my internship confirmed. I landed in June 2018 in Sydney, and I interned with Mitri Lawyers for 2 years. For 2 months. After I interned with them for 2 months, simultaneously I was doing my LLM. Now, strangely enough, I was doing my LLM in dispute resolution. But during my time at UNSW, I realized that if I moved to a Master of Laws program, I had the opportunity to specialize in 3 different areas instead of just one area. But that was based on if you picked up certain types of subjects, and then that would eventually lead to you specializing in 3 different areas. So then I picked my subjects in that combination. I specialized in corporate commercial taxation law. I also specialized in dispute resolution. And back then, because Australia had really strong ties with China, I specialized in their Chinese and business economic laws. So with that, I was in UNSW. I did my internship with Mitri. I specialized in 3 different areas of law. And simultaneously, I also used the pathway that Jindal had created for students to become lawyers in Australia. So I got in touch with the LPAB. I gave them my mark sheet and everything for assessment. And they asked me to finish a bunch of subjects. I finished that along with my LLM. Having cleared that, eventually I had to do a graduate diploma in legal practice. So I finished that. I had a practical legal component for that. So I had to do like some 160 days of work experience. But after my internship with Mitri, I interviewed at this law firm as a paralegal, a family law firm, and they hired me, and I finished my PLT component with them. So that was my big time exposure, having worked with them for almost 1.5 years in the family law area. And that sort of connected me back to my dispute resolution specialization, because then I was practicing family dispute resolution. So I was helping families get together. I was mediating their issues. I was negotiating property related settlements. So there was a lot going on in that space. But having said that, currently I'm an immigration lawyer. So I'm not a family lawyer anymore. Actually, I'm an immigration lawyer. And immigration is huge in Australia because it's one sector that attracts $36 billion almost every year in this industry. So it's a booming industry. So immigration law is actually very conventional. You'll hear a lot of people that they want to do arbitration, they want to do corporate law, they want to do human rights. But immigration is something that you rarely hear. But like I said, in Australia, immigration lawyers are massive. So, having said that, currently I work as an immigration lawyer. And the reason why I was attracted to this space was because during my journey as a student into Australia, I wanted to be well versed with what sort of laws I'm dealing with, how I'm transitioning from a student to a worker, what sort of rights I'd have in place. Am I going to breach my visa condition under any circumstances, like if I overwork or something like that? So, all of that sort of attracted me towards immigration law. So then, having worked with the family law firm for 1.5 years, when I bid them goodbye, I moved on to an education consultancy, and I worked there for some time as an education consultant, as a part-time education consultant, because I was still trying to become a lawyer. So there I met with this migration agent who said that since you're already going to become a lawyer here, might as well join an immigration law firm where you could gain experience. That was anywhere at the back of my mind, but that was a suggestion that he gave me. So having used the experience that I got with that migration agent, I got myself into one of the biggest law firms in Australia for immigration law. I worked with them. It was a temporary contract opportunity because I'm still doing my MBA, so I'm on a student visa and I have part-time work rights. So getting a full-time opportunity is really difficult for me in keeping with the conditions that have been imposed on my visa. But having said that, I worked with one of the biggest law firms in Australia on a temporary contract for 8 months, and that opportunity got me into my current job. So in my current job, once again, I work part time. I work as an immigration lawyer, and one of the biggest things that I could say that I did in my career of 2 years as a lawyer is that in the recent Afghanistan crisis, we have helped so many interpreters, we have helped so many families reunite with their relatives in Australia. We have helped orphan kids be airlifted to Australia. So that was something that is very close to my heart. That I was able to help all those people. They might never know my name, they might never know who I am, but in my heart, I know that I did what I had to do as a lawyer to get them here. So we even, in fact, assisted the immigration department write a paper on this, which has gone to the current Minister of Immigration, where we have appealed that at least 20,000 spots be made available for these Afghan refugees. But I'm just keeping my fingers crossed to see if that gets approved. But that's my journey so far.
Wonderful, Pavitra. I'm so very proud of you. Uh, and of course, Jindal Global Law School, uh, I have personally been uh, uh, observing our alumni since the very first batch in 2012 when we graduated our 3-year LLB class, our first batch, and then 2014 when our first 5-year law batch, BA LLB honors class graduated. And our LLM, when it used to be a 2-year program, in 2012, the first batch of LLM also graduated. I have no doubt in saying that our students, our graduates are indeed the best in the country. One of the reasons why I do this colloquium, and I decided to do it in whatever schedule, whatever workload which we have in the university, is the fact that Jindal Global Law School has started with a lot of skepticism and even to some extent negativity in the beginning. And there were critics, there were people who went on saying that it's only a law school of rich and spoiled brats and things like that. They wrote here and there. And I realized I have been to almost 100 law schools in this country. I studied in University of Delhi for more than 6 years. I did my LLB and LLM, and also I spent some time otherwise. I had never any doubt that we have some of the finest students of law in the country in our campus at any point of time. With all of you here, and particularly our first few batches, Trisha is our second batch. Even if we want to do this colloquium every day, we have alumni and we have, people in almost every major city of the world. Trisha is a New York bar qualified lawyer. We have at least 20 of our alumni who have qualified New York bar. Some other 10 have qualified California bar. Quite a few have qualified bar in Ontario, in Canada, and other parts of the world. You are in Australia. I remember Soham Pandit was another of our graduate who qualified Australian bar. There could be many more. Some of our graduates are in China, in UAE. In Whiten case, we have quite a few associates and even senior associates. Teresa has moved on from Whiten case to another firm in London. But if you look at Indian law firms, some 50 of our graduates are working only in Cyril Amarchand in different offices and Ketan and Company. And I was in Mumbai pre-COVID in 2019, and 50 of our graduates gathered in a small get-together where they were working mostly in Cyril Amarchand and Ketan and Shardul Amarchand and few firms only in Mumbai. And that is the same thing, be in Delhi, be it Calcutta, be it Bangalore, Hyderabad, all over. And then almost be it London, be it New York, in a very short span of time. And this has not been achieved by any fluke, it's pure hard work, commitment, humility, grace. I will say a lot of credit goes to our students, our alumni, who always kept this in mind, that they are not just representing themselves, but they are also representing the academic tradition of Jindal Global Law School, and being a student, being an alumni of a new law school which is trying to make its mark in the legal education in India as well as the world. Today, we are the first ranked law school in the country. Today, we do not need any introduction. Today, almost we are ahead of, say, half of the law schools of even the developed, or the countries like Canada and the US and UK and Australia. Australia, there are many in top 100 and top 200. But JGLS as a law school has come a long way. And it's attracting, as you won't believe, we have received application from 17 countries this year, other than India, in our law school in different programs. And for the first time in the history of law school, the girl students have been, their applications as well as their selections in different program has been higher than the boys, almost in every program, including 5-year law program, 3-year LLB program, as well as LLM program. So the law school and university has come to the new stage, new level, where we are actually now we will aim only to get into top 50 law schools in the world. And I'm so delighted that when I hear from you all, the way you became like a member in the Australian bar, I still remember very fondly Professor Sonis Starr, the way he set up Center for India-Australia Studies, our MOU with Mitri lawyers. And even today, we are doing a lot of work with Australian universities and law schools. So now we have our LLM graduate, Rajat Shah, with us. Rajat pursued a 1-year LLM program in corporate financial law. Very unfortunately, the 2020 batch LLM program students could not even see the campus. The program started during the COVID period, started online and ended also online. Their convocation happened online. And I don't know whether Rajat has visited our university campus even today or not, but I will like to invite him personally whenever you get time, come and spend some time on campus. I will organize your stay. and it will be a pleasure having you. Rajat has studied a BCom degree from University of Delhi, and LLB from Campus Law Center, Faculty of Law, University of Delhi, my own alma mater, and also the alma mater of our Vice Chancellor, Professor C. Rajkumar. So CLC is very close to my heart. And then he pursued LLM at Jindal. He works as an advocate, registered with the bar in Delhi. And also, very interestingly, he's an entrepreneur in education. He runs a school where he's a trustee of a public school in his home place, Shikohabad, from where he had joined. So I'd like to hear from Rajat his experience of being an LLM student and also overall his academic and professional journey. I will also like to tell all of you that this webinar is being casted on official YouTube channel of OP Jindal Global University, an official Facebook channel of both Jindal Global University and Jindal Global Law School. I will encourage the viewers, if you have questions from the panelists, please post it in the YouTube channel chat box. We will take it up once our panelists share their views. So over to you, Rajat. And then we will go to our student panelists before we close the session. So over to you, Rajat Shah, LLM JGLS.
Thank you so much, sir, for the introduction, and thank you for including me in the dialogue with other panelists. And as you fondly mentioned that even my batchmates along with me are very excited to visit the campus. We are just waiting for the entire travel restrictions to get normalized. I have few colleagues shifted to Australia. Few of them are working in US, few of them are in Hyderabad, Bangalore, all over the country. And there was a small group of friends that I made even while pursuing an online LLM degree at Jindal. There were group projects that we were doing together. There were exam discussions that we were doing together. And all of them are really waiting for to visit the campus and to visit you along with the Vice Chancellor and our beloved professor. To begin with my academic journey, how I decided to pursue law, it started right from my school time. I remember Pavitra mentioning that she is someone who stand up for people's right and who likes to defend people's voices. Similar thing used to happen with me right from the very childhood. Like I was the head boy of my school, so starting new programs at school, I started GK club at my school back during my head boy day, and couple of other initiatives. At the same time, I was always involved right from the very beginning during my undergraduate days at Delhi University to be indulged in social initiatives and to voice out opinions and to be there and what is right and what is wrong. I also had that inquisitiveness with me at all point of time. So when I was actually looking forward to pursue my education right after my graduation, one thing always struck me that I always was a person as a child who was looking for the why behind each and everything. Like if your father is asking you to do something, if there's a certain regulation in the society to follow, if there's a certain regulation in a school to follow, I always had this why in my mind. And obviously, through my interaction with parents, teachers, friends, and society members, I got to understand that law is one place where you get answers of all of your whys, because we as citizens, we as part of the society, revolves our life around law, whatever we do and whatever we get indulged with. So that's when the motivation to pursue law started. Post my BCom, I joined Campus Law Center, and one of my fondest memory of my life so far was 3 years of Campus Law Center, where I learned not only through the classroom education, but a major part of learning at Delhi University, and I'm sure Professor Mishra would also agree with me, is through the canteen discussion and the corridor discussions and the way you get indulged with professor after class hours. You help them with some research project, you help them read some books and journals that they are writing. So it was a pretty fruitful journey academically for me, that even a night before exams, you have the liberty to approach your professors, and there are intensive discussions on topics like 498, on topics like 304A and B, and a couple of other topics related to torts and labor law. So that was pretty fruitful in terms of academics out there. Apart from that, how I grew as a law student step by step, since it was relatively a smaller program, a 3-year law program as compared to a 5 year law program. So there's always a rush, there's always a race about making the most of it. There are internship, there are journals writing, and there's society work. And at the same time, you have to maintain a good academic rigor as well, because if you want to pursue LLM in future, or if you want to get placed in a better law firm or in a better litigation chamber, the competition that you face from national law schools and universities like OP Jindal, that is when the time limit comes pretty hard for a couple of students. So to begin with my law journey as a first year law student, like any of us would feel, I was a clueless law student in the first semester itself, trying to explore as much as I can. I joined a couple of student initiatives like moot court societies, placement cell, legal aid, and debate and discussion. I put in my feet anywhere and everywhere I was getting an opportunity. I can say it was a blessing in disguise, because what I did not realize when I was in my first year, that this society space is going to give a lot that I could have ever asked for. The interactions that you get with the guest lecturers that you're having in campus, the recruiters that you are interacting with while being a volunteer at placement cell. And it gets very tough at times, because you're working day and night to get someone else place, your seniors, your colleagues, your batchmates, because we have a rule back in our campus law center that if you are handling a particular recruitment, you obviously cannot apply for it. So those through those discussions with industry leaders, senior advocates, academicians, a lot of perspective about reading law, understanding law, and how law is not just a course or a academic course to pursue, but how is it a lifestyle in itself. That is when I started developing my interest law further, right in my second and third year. Apart from that, a major part of my learning also came from organizing moot court competition extensively at Campus Law Center. I happened to be the president of the society back at my third year, working very closely with the organizers and the leaders of the industry who are coming as judges, as co-organizers, etc. Post that, I was trying to find out my area of interest in law. That it's fine that you are a law student, but what would you want to do later on? So that's when I started applying for internships. And during my 3 years of law school, I interned almost at 9 different places, right from NGOs to legal service authorities. I started interning with the Justice Rekha Palli, who back then was a senior advocate. I went on interning with Mr. Siddharth Luthra, senior advocate, Mr. KK Venugopal, who was recently appointed as an attorney general when I joined his chamber as an intern. I also had a couple of corporate internships like Khatan and Company to get an exposure right from the trial court level, where you stand on your feet for 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day, as much as your boss, as much as your associates and seniors are working. Get to know the fine nuances of how the litigation actually works, the paper trail, the running around, the clock, the judge's questions, the brief, the client discussion that goes around. And at the same time, being observant is something which helps any law student a lot, especially if you want to pursue a career in litigation. Whenever you intern with the senior counsel, generally they don't have time, and it's not reasonable for a law student to expect for a senior counsel to teach you. They have their own workload, they have their juniors working with them and plethora of interns with them. So your observation skills comes in very handy, that you see them solving problem, you see them answering clients' queries or briefing counsel's queries, and the way they handle the pressure inside the courtroom. Because once you are at that stage, you're supposed to know anything and everything about your case. So these fine lessons during my internships and my stint at societies instill a sense of responsibility within me, that if it is your case, if it is your file, or for that matter, if it is your work, you are solely responsible for what you do. There are always going to be teachers, mentors, and seniors, but at the end, it's you who have to do your own due diligence, who have to put in your stronger foot right at your work. And that's when you make the most of it. At the same time, my interest in the entrepreneurship area was during my childhood days, because my family being a business family right from past 7 generations, what I've always heard. So I always had this thing of doing something on my own, started something on my own, where I can be in charge of very small things. Like as Professor Mishra would agree, he being the dean at Jindal Global, you have to manage the teaching staff, you have to manage the infrastructure, you have to manage admissions, academic query, payments query, etc. So that was something I always wanted to do. I always see myself doing that. You do one thing, you become a lawyer, you start your own practice, but there are at least 50% of your time and energy goes around managing your chamber, managing your work, your peers, associates, friends, clients, etc. So that entrepreneurial mindset never died. On the other hand, it increased as my interest in law was increasing day by day. So right after I graduated, I joined Chamber of Mr. Anuj Agarwal. He is a standing counsel for Delhi government at High Court of Delhi. I worked with him for a short period of time and saw my days at Delhi High Court while working with him. Post that, I shifted back to my hometown in early 2019, and that's when the discussion started happening about having a school of my own, because that was, you can say, a very raw childhood dream I had back when I was in school, that maybe I want to have a school of my own someday. So that is when in 2019, once I left Delhi and shifted back to my hometown, the entire discussion started and we started working towards building the entire institution. And again, the practical aspect that I learned while practicing law and reading law and during my internship and working as an advocate also came in handy while establishing this institution. A lot of paper trail goes while you start an institution. There's HR work, there's permission from department, there's licensing, there's raising of finance, bank formalities, thousand other things. And that is where your training as a lawyer comes in handy. Like no one can fool you. You are the in charge of your own project and you see everything with the spectacle of being a lawyer. So a couple of things were going around back in 2019. I was practicing law. At the same time, I was trying to build this institution. And once this institution was actually inaugurated, the lockdown took place. So everything went down for us suddenly. We built it for an year or so, but everything just went into lockdown. But we still started. Being the first year itself, we started our journey as an online school itself. We never saw a single day in the brick and mortar setup. We gained a lot of encouragement and positive feedback from the couple of students that we had in our initial year. At the same time, that is when I started realizing that maybe this lockdown is a blessing in disguise for me, because I cannot leave this school at this very stage. I cannot leave my legal practice. So why not pursue a law right now? If the campus opens, if the lockdown restrictions are eased down, I'll try to manage things somehow, put in someone else over here for a couple of months and finish my course. And if not, I'll just try to manage things here and there anyhow. I fondly remember the first person that I ever spoke to regarding my LLM admissions and the very idea about whether to pursue an LLM or not is a senior of mine from Campus Law Center. She was teaching at Jindal Global Law School. And we were friends back in Campus Law Center. We were working for different committees. We participated in different seminars at the same time. And there was this one statement which she made, that there is no other place in the entire world that she would see herself while teaching or while being a professional other than Jindal Global Law School. So that was enough motivation for me to finally decide the idea that I want to pursue an LLM from Jindal Global Law School itself and nowhere else. And that's when she only mentioned that I must speak to Professor Mishra regarding my any doubts that I would have about the institution, about the program. And within a span of, I would say, around 15 minutes call duration I had with Professor Mishra. And after that, there was no looking back. I was pretty clear that this is the course I want to pursue and this is the university I want to choose. Now, to begin with my LLM journey, how it started, the first course itself was taught by Professor Bhattacharya, who was also the dean of our program. Advanced company law. Since I already had my interest in civil and commercial side of litigation, I was vetting contracts, I was looking after property matters, etc. His lessons and his teaching, his online classes built my interest even more towards the corporate and the financial law side. Post that, I remember having amazing classes for legal research methodology, having a very good professor at the same time, very good academic rigor for the contract drafting case itself. And I remember talking to the particular professor about my PhD plans once I finished my LLM program. So at the same time, the dissertation which I wrote for my LLM program was based on IBC. It was broadly around the rights of home buyers. One of the best mentors I could have ever asked for to write on this topic was the mentor which was assigned to me, because she herself has practiced extensively in the IBC area. So while I was pursuing my LLM through professors' teachings and through the academic projects that we were taking up, through our exams and the study material that we were getting from time to time, I could not have ever asked for a better exposure or better learning, even through an online mode. And post that, I was approached by a lot of juniors, a lot of colleagues and batchmates and seniors that how was my experience, and if I would advise them to join Jindal Global Law School. And I am proud to say that currently 5 of my juniors and batchmates are pursuing LLM in the cohort third and cohort fourth, because I clearly told them that if you do not have time for a residential program, if you cannot see yourself going states or going UK or being at NLU, where you have to leave everything apart and pursue the LLM course itself, I think this is the best thing that you could ever ask for. And trust me, my decision or their decision did not prove to be wrong at all. They are thoroughly enjoying the course while maintaining their litigation practice, while working at tier one law firm. One of them is working as in a tier one law firm as a senior, as a principal associate, soon to be a partner. One of them has his independent practice at district courts in Delhi. So it was a wonderful journey academically at Jindal Global Law School. Apart from that, the global exposure that I got, I remember Professor Sean Starr was also one of my professor for the course. And at the same time, the final exam, the semester exam that we used to take, the kind of quality that we were getting through question papers and all was unparalleled. My 6 years of education back in Delhi University, where I pursued BCom and LLB, versus the 1 year education that I pursued at Jindal Global Law School, I cannot even imagine comparing the two, because the academic rigor was so finely made and so finely put forward to the students. One more thing that I'm really looking forward and I'm really proud of doing, and I've been doing that from almost 10 years now, ever since I finished my school journey, ever since I finished class 12, I have this hobby, habit, or you can say I have this passion of career counseling and guiding young students as a mentor. So I've been doing that ever since I passed my school. I mentored my juniors, my batchmates for their LLM applications, for their internship applications, what elective they choose, what field they should choose after school, what kind of litigation they should pursue, what kind of internship they should choose, whether law firm would make more sense to them or whether a court practice would make more sense to them. UK applications versus US application, I was always involved with all these activities. So that's when I decided that this is something that I want to continue while maintaining a fine balance between running an education institution and at the same time pursuing my litigation practice. I fondly look forward to join some university in future as a part-time professor, and I really wish to pursue my PhD very soon as I move forward in my career.
So, thank you so much, Rajat. You have spent very little time vis-a-vis, say, a 5 year law graduate students who are with us, but your experience is truly inspiring. Now, I will come to Aditi Motani. Aditi is our student of BBLLB Honors Program, and Aditi has been part of two amazing schools. One is a Hope Town School for Girls in Dehradun, and then the another school in Calcutta, the Modern High School for Girls, before joining the BBLLB Honors Program at Jindal Global Law School. Unfortunately, this is her third semester, which she is doing online. But I'm very sure the fourth semester won't be like that. And on 1st February, I could meet her on campus. She is actually joining us from Betia in West Champaran. If you know Gandhi, he started his movement from there. And Betia is also my home district. I am extremely proud of having Aditi as a part of the law school, as well as this panel. So over to you, Aditi. Aditi, you are not audible.
Is it better? Is it better now?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Okay, sir. So, good evening, sir. Sorry, I'm so sorry for the glitch. Okay, so as I was saying that, as sir's already stated, I think I'm the youngest one on the panel and also the most inexperienced one. But I'll just say whatever that I have experienced at Jindal. So I think I also have always been. I always knew that I wanted to study law as a subject, and I just had an avid interest in reading about public issues, public policy issues, and like writing and reading about things like that. Additionally, my family also has been in some ways involved with law, and I firsthand have vividly seen the kind of impact that law has on the lives of real people. So, as Sir's already stated, I'm from Bihar in West Champaran, and we're the classic Zamindar's family, right? So we have experienced, like we were the first hand, we experienced the impact of the Nehruvian agricultural laws that were brought through, and the litigation that the cascading litigation effects that were experienced by the zamindars in like UP and Bihar, right? So I have seen the real impact that law has on the lives of real people, and that became my inspiration for pursuing this subject. Um, which is, and I think Jindal has been is the platform which I can use to pursue my aspirations and dreams, right? Like it is truly a global university, and I would definitely want to make use of all the resources that they provide us with. Other than that, I mean it's been only my third semester, and so the little that I have done like a few internships, and um, okay, and I did do a summer school in July, which was in collaboration with the City College London, and it was based, and the subject matter of the summer school was human rights and businesses. So that was something that interested me a lot. Other than that, I'm very fond of competition law. Even though we don't have that as a core subject in our second year, I have attended all the webinars and stuff that we can, and in fact, a professor Shilpi Bhattacharya has been uh, very helpful in helping me learn the subject, and I also took part in competitions organized by by NLU Bangalore with respect to the subject matter. So I think, as people have already stated, I think Jindal, like the professors of Jindal, is what makes Jindal Jindal, right? So just I'm like very blessed to have people teach me subjects like that, and I particularly want to talk about Professor Sandeep Suresh, who taught us legal methods in my first semester, and Professor Vanessa Chishti, who teaches us the social sciences, right? And I think the course, which is the Foundation of Social Sciences, which is offered in the first year, is very like important for laying the groundwork, right? Because there you're like taught about subject like social issues. You're talking about like Dalit matters, or like inequality in general. And I think that just sets the foundation for people being like just human rights oriented. Like I feel like in Jindal, everyone wants to work for a social cause, and courses like that lay the foundation for that. Um, and I think, just as I think Rajat had also stated, I try my hand at everything and anything in my first year. So like I'm doing like all societies, human rights societies, whether it's Jindal Digest for competition and innovation laws, or whether it's something such as the IBC. So I try my best at that, and I'm also part of the Jindal Society of International Law, which is also where we have guest lectures from uh, by all the renowned people and renowned academicians from the world. So I think that's been my experience in Jindal, and I really look forward to what's coming forth. And definitely the panelists here have laid laid down the foundation for what is coming, and I'm very excited for it. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attention and time.
So thank you so much, Aditi. I loved everything what you said, and it's so true. I mean, the faculty members you mentioned, the courses you mentioned, we are the only law school in the country where we teach Foundation of Social Sciences 1 and 2, 8 credit course to our business students. Pavitra must have studied when she was a BBA LLB student. And this is done just to ensure that our BBA LLB honors and BCom LLB honors student, those who have chosen to study business and law, they are not in a way disadvantaged because of not studying social sciences and humanities, because law, after all, is a social science. And the foundations of social sciences are important for a study of law and research in law. If you look at even a lot of universities in the UK and Europe and even around the world, in the older times when faculty of law was not as developed, it used to be a part of faculty of social sciences. So it's good that you enjoyed the course offered by Professor Vanisha Chisti and also Professor Sandeep Suresh. And with this, our panel discussion in this colloquium actually comes to an end, but there are a few questions in the YouTube chat which I would like to take up. And there is one aimed for Pavitra, which is an interesting question that when Pavitra is going to stop, I mean, I hope this is a question from some of her friends. I will like Pavitra to give a closing remark after Trisha and Bambi and Rajat, I mean, all of you. We will take 1 minute for each. But Raghav has asked a very good question. At what are the opportunities to students available after completing the BA Legal Studies degree and then the LLB 3-year program? And can it be a path if someone wants to pursue a corporate law career? So I don't know whether our Trisha and Bambi and those who studied earlier are aware that we were the first law school to start a BA honors degree in legal studies, or like BA law. And it's a BA honors degree where a strong social science, humanities, and law foundations are provided for the first 3 years. The benefit is you get your first degree in 3 years. So 2024, you get your first degree. You have assured pathway, assured entry in the LLB honors program, the 3-year LLB program, because you have already studied law. You already, got a strong foundation in legal studies. You have studied public law, private law, even corporate and commercial law, international law. These are all part of BA Legal Studies curriculum. You also study philosophy, logic, English, legal writing, academic writing, a lot of other courses. So you get a 3-year BA honors degree. Now, to have a corporate law career, it's as good when you become an LLB honors student, the 3-year LLB student. You are actually prepared and you are in a better situation vis-a-vis any graduate who has studied humanities or commerce or sciences, or for that matter, engineering or pharmacy or medicine or any degree who comes to LLB degree program, because you have studied law. You have studied almost all major areas, the foundational aspects of laws. And one student was discussing with me that can I take UPSC exam, the IS exam with law option only with BA Legal Studies degree, even without doing an LLB. And I told, after going through the curriculum, you can actually write IS exam with law option only with a BA law degree, because what is needed is a BA honors degree to take UPSC exam. Of course, when you do LLB, you are going to be further enriched, and your study as a law student will be more research intensive. But the BA degree itself empowers you that way. So even for corporate law as a career, once you do a BA honors in legal studies, the next 3 years while LLB student, you can focus on corporate law and related disciplines, as well as you can plan your internships and work during those 3 years that way, and you can build a successful corporate law career as well. Now I will come to Trisha for the closing remark, followed by Bambi and Pavitra and Rajat and Aditi. So over to you, Trisha.
I would just like to say thank you to you, Professor, for organizing this. This has been, not just, I hope, enriching for the students, and, they've gotten some insight into all of our careers, but also for me to hear what everyone's been doing has been amazing. And like you said, it's wonderful to see what alumni across the world is doing. The only thing I would like to say before we end is that I know that thinking about your career can be really overwhelming. And a lot of people, including myself, sometimes know what they want to do. But there's also people, and you've seen people on this panel as well, who change their career paths and haven't necessarily known their right path that they want to do. And that's okay as well. So I think just keeping in mind that wherever you want to get to, eventually you will get there is important. Just have faith in yourself and not to get overwhelmed by other people's experiences, because no two people are going to have the same experience ever. That's all. Thank you, Professor.
I think Trisha summed that up really well. And just adding to what she's said, I think seminars like these are very important. I think the connection that we all have with each other as lawyers within the community, I think that is so important. And like me, I'm sure there are so many law graduates today who don't come from families where in our immediate family there are lawyers or judges. So for us, I think it's even more important to stay connected and informed within this community. And apart from that, I would say that enjoy enjoy your law school ride. And often you will find yourself intrigued by different fields of law, or you would have a certain perception of who you think you would be as a lawyer. But trust me, the opportunities are endless, and who you think you might be, you might turn out to be someone entirely different. For example, like how I was always so IP focused, and I was pretty sure that corporate law was in fact not meant for me. But that actually completely changed after I worked in the IP industry. So don't limit yourself, because I think that's something that I did do with myself. And the real world out there is not as scary as it seems. So yeah, just have faith in yourself. That's all I would say.
So Pavitra, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir, once again. I'm actually very honored to be a part of this panel. I think both my seniors, they have set the bar already very high in their respective careers. And drawing from them, I guess my batch, everybody from my batch has tried to do their bit to also to make our seniors proud, and also to set the benchstone for our juniors. Having said that, my only giveaway would be that try everything in law school. Don't shy away from opportunities. Explore different areas of law. You might have your heart set on one particular area of law, and you think that eventually you'd see yourself flourishing in that area, but you'd never know. I was someone who thought that I could be a good corporate lawyer. I thought I could make my mark in that industry. I eventually specialized in a completely different area of law. And then at present, I practice a different area of law. But having said that, whatever I learned during my law school years, it has helped me all through, whether it be legal reasoning, whether it be understanding how to deduce facts from different sort of scenarios, everything has helped, whether it be my drafting courses. So don't shy away from trying everything when you're at law school, and also don't set your heart immediately that this is what you want to do. Get a hang of everything, and then eventually once you find your way through it, then just that's about it. That's where you make your mark.
Great. Rajat.
Thank you so much, Professor Mishra, for having all of us here. There are a couple of things which I would like to say very quickly. First of all, what Aditi also mentioned, that she is willing trying her hands at each and every opportunity that she is getting at General Global, which is something I always advise to law students that I meet. I also train CA students for law and company secretary students for law, and this is a common advice which I always put forward, that persistence is actually something which takes all of us to different places. Like, we have such a diverse panel over here. Someone who started as an IPL lawyer is now a corporate lawyer. Someone who started as a corporate lawyer is now working in the immigration sector. So be persistent to whatever you do. And what Trisha also said, don't be overwhelmed with someone else's journey. Right from the Chief Justice of our country to someone who recently started litigation, they all have a different story. Someone wanted to become an engineer, they end up becoming a senior counsel. So you never know what comes up. One more thing which I would like to add over here, gaining my experience from CLC and General Global, we also need pretty good law teachers like the way we have at General Global. So I would really encourage students to take litigation and academic as a mainstream career option. Do not see it as a setback. Key. Let's just move into academics if nothing is working out, because nowadays the trend has changed. We have pretty comfortable life as an academician, which wasn't the case earlier, and great global opportunities are also there. So these are two areas which I would like young students to focus. We really need good litigation lawyers, and we really need good law professors to educate the future generation. So that's my bit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, again for involving me in this panel. And I think I'm just going to conclude by saying that I'll try to follow everything that my seniors have said as of now. And I hope my batchmates would do the same. Thank you very much.
So now Diwali is also very few days away. So I wish happy Diwali to all of you. Here in Sonipat, we have a Diwali Mela going on in our residential society, mostly occupied by Jindal people. Half of the society is Jindal faculty and staff, and have great times. And certainly we will continue this colloquium, bringing more and more of our alumni, our students together. And I look forward to have you on campus whenever your schedule permits, whenever you are around, whenever you are in Delhi. Just take few hours out, come and be at the campus in Sonipat. It will always remain your place throughout your life. Being an alumni, it's you belong to this place always. So all the very best, and thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much, sir.
And happy Diwali to you too.
Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali to you, sir.
Bye, everyone. So what's left.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.